There we go.
All right, I've got the YouTube page pulled up to make sure that we are going live. There we are. Okay, and I'm going to close that YouTube page because I'm hearing your voice in the background echoed to me. Okay, perfect. So hello to our one viewer. Thanks, Patriot Prime, for joining us. That's very nice of you. So yeah, this is a new podcast that I'm starting. This is intended to be free-flowing, long-form discussion focused on the people in the Transformers franchise, or fandom, rather. I don't think there's enough focus on that. I think that there's some really interesting people, but I don't want to talk too much about that. My first guest here today is Cameran Holiday. Hello, Cameran.
Hi.
So Cameran, of course, we talked about this before, but the reason I wanted to do this with you first is because we work together. We know that we can have long conversations, and I thought I'd start with a familiar face. So thank you very much for coming on.
Of course, I'm honored. Thank you.
Cool. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Cameran Holiday. I am a graphic designer for Toyhax, and I've been a Transformers collector ever since I was 4. I live in California, and it's been a great ride thus far. Looking forward to still making more stickers and being a part of this wonderful community. And there we go. Just a little pop-up came up on my screen. But yeah.
Cool. So you've been a Transformer fan since you were 4, you said.
Yep.
So where does that place you? Where did you start off with your interest in Transformers?
It was the time of Beast Wars, and my mom and I were going to Hawaii to see my stepdad, who was working on a film of some kind. And to keep me busy on the plane, my mom bought me Transmetal's Rat Trap. And it was the most complex thing that I had ever played with. And it stimulated me in new ways. My mind just opened up. And I went from the flight over getting so confused with how the arms worked, and I would throw it on the floor in frustration, to on the trip back, I had Airhammer and I had Bantor, and I was transforming Rat Trap into his little wheeled mode, and I was rolling him down the slopes in the airport because he would go, and it was so cool. Mm-hmm. And then it kept on going from there. I loved those toys, and my grandma would buy me some. I'd watch the TV show, and it was real great and real hot until about like the end of Beast Machines. And at that point, I think I transitioned to Bionicles, and I stayed with Bionicles until the live action movies started in 2007. And then I was full steam ahead, everything until now.
So you didn't have any kind of break in your toy collecting ways. There was no adolescent phase where you realized or where it might have occurred to you that maybe that wasn't the best way to make friends, and that maybe people were giving you some weird looks. Because I know that a lot of people, that's their story. Is that the case with you at all?
A little bit. I always wanted to stay proud of my toys and proud of who I was for liking toys. Mm-hmm. Because when I was around that 4-year-old age, I remember building a lot of Legos with my dad. And when the episode 1 of Star Wars came out, that was my introduction into Star Wars. And we built a whole lot of those Legos together. And he told me, you know what? It would be amazing if you could make your job just playing with toys, because then you would have, endless hours of fun and get paid for it. And that has been like my philosophy going forward when it comes to, you know, what I do for a living. So um, I always wanted to be proud of who I was and what I collected. And if there was somebody who thought I was weird or didn't like the Transformers, or, you know, anything I collected, then I thought that's probably not somebody that I should, you know, get too close to anyway. So there were a couple times, I'll admit, in high school I did bring some of my Transformers with me into class, and it actually got on really well. People would be like, "Is that a Transformer? That's really cool. Can you show me?" And I thought, you know, this is great positive reinforcement. And then there was one kid named Jacob who like went over the top with it. And he was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" And he took it was Universe Deluxe Acid Storm, and he like swooshed it around the classroom, and I was so morbidly embarrassed. So
Oh, so was it not a genuine "that's so cool"? It was more of a
I
like
think it was genuine,
I see.
but it was just so loud.
Right.
It was so like, you know, is
Bad
this the kind of
presentation.
person that people think of me as, you know, and then there were everybody's opinions of how hard he was going at it,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely in high school, especially, social reputation is a lot, right?
Yeah.
And if you find yourself, uh, having interest in common with somebody, but uh, but maybe they're not the cool person that you want to be, then that's a really difficult spot to be in high school, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I remember. You know what? I think it's important not to lose sight of it being a little weird. I think that that's okay. I think it's okay to be to so long as you're not overwhelmed by that.
Mhm.
So long as it doesn't, consume you. I think it's okay to acknowledge, yeah, maybe collecting toys as an adult is a little strange. But it's what I like to do, and I there are certain other strange things that I like to do and that I'm not ashamed of. But I
Yeah.
remember having a hard time with that in high school. There was a girl that I liked, and I remember telling her I collected Transformers, like I was coming out to her, and she kind of laughed and she went, "That's kind of funny," and I was so offended.
uh,
I was not. I didn't take it well at all. I remember, and I tried to keep my composure and all that, but she just kept insisting. No, it's kind of funny. I mean, it is. Think about it. It's kind of funny that you still collect toys. And only now do I really see it. That yeah, okay, I am an adult and I do play with toys, and maybe I can make a living off of it. But that doesn't, you know.
yeah.
Um, so you mentioned that you mentioned to me that you aspire to be a toy designer,
Yeah.
or to be involved in the process of creating toys in some capacity. Um, can you tell me a little bit about your game plan?
Yeah. It would be really cool to someday be part of the Hasbro team if I'm shooting for, you know, top of the list, because
Hmm.
I have always been really, really interested in how the toys that we play with as children affects the people that we grow up to be. Even since 11th, 12th grade, I wrote an essay, and I made that whole thesis that, you know, if we were to buy certain toys, they help, you know, to train new parts of our brain, and they help inform our choices for what kind of careers we want to do, or, you know, how we think, depending on if it's a creative toy or an engineering toy, or, you know, gosh, anything in between. So um what was your original question? I think I sidetracked myself.
I'm wondering, like, what's your game plan? So, like, do you have
Yeah.
to, like, are you familiarizing yourself with 3D design software, for instance, or
Yeah.
is there? so I understand your passion about toys and about Transformers. But is there something about the design process of the toys that speaks to you specifically, or is it just a way of getting out your love of Transformers?
Well, the thing that I love most about Transformers is the toys and the engineering. There's something delightful about being able to realize how one thing becomes another, and it's every single one to me is like a miracle, and
Mhm.
it absolutely blows my mind. So I do want to get into 3D modeling. I've already started to get into 3D printing, and I have been printing a model of lug nut that transforms, designed by Sam's Forge. On Twitter, he's Sam underscore makes underscore toys.
That's
And
awesome.
he designed this wonderful lug nut that transforms, and it's about Iron Factory scale. And my challenge to myself has been to try and see if I can blow it up to 200%, which would make it about the size of a liter, so that it could fit with my other animated toys. And there are challenges that I'm, learning with every single print that I do, but I everything that I try leads me a little bit closer to that eventual goal of designing my own toys.
Hmm.
I would love to, open up a Shapeways store, or I would love to be able to um, design guns or design extra steps of transformation that can be supplanted into figures. I love things that highlight what's great about an official toy, because then it's like, hey, what if, this is a collaborative process? What if I'm adding a little bit into here? And working for Hasbro is the top of the list for me, because I feel like I can give that joy and that fun to as many people as possible, mostly
Hmm.
kids. And I mean, I feel like I've never really, stepped out of that stage of childhood wonder when it comes to Transformers. And I am so proud to continue to cultivate that. That
Yeah.
matters a lot to me.
Yeah, well, what I find so admirable about you is that uh, you've had this passion that's been unwavering for so long, and and this seems to be not only for your interest in Transformers and toys, but about your plans for the future. And it seems uh, like, did you have uh, any adults around you while you were continuing to gain interest in toys that were also interested in toys? Or were you really just secluded and yet still persevering with this interest?
I think it was mostly me. My dad is also kind of a kindred spirit on that part. He has always been a little bit of a hobbyist and an engineer and a creative type. So over the years, sometimes he and I used to collect Star Wars together, or the Disney Pixar Cars movie. He used to collect those cars, and um, that was probably my only personal relationship with somebody who even thought in a similar way. Um, but I remember when I was maybe beginning of high school, I want to say like ninth grade, I was building a massive Star Destroyer, and I thought I had misplaced a couple of pieces. So I called up the Lego company, and one thing, I don't know how, led to another. And I ended up talking with an adult who was in charge of the design. And they
Hmm.
were telling me, well,
Sorry, you were how old?
I want to say I was in ninth grade.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And they pointed me in the direction of architectural engineering as a degree. And
Wow.
so I was like, oh my God, okay, this is it. I'm going to work for Lego. I'm going to build Legos. And this is it. 4-year-old me, here I come.
Yeah.
Um, and then long story short, I didn't end up getting into that because the school that I got into somehow they were like, oh, sorry, we don't actually offer that degree, so you can do 3 years here and 2 years at another university. I'm like, I'm only doing as little school as I need to do.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
that's great because here you are, and you're now working for Toyhax,
yeah.
which of course we're both working for Toyhax. But how does that feel? Like, did at any point, like, okay, so I understand that your commitment was unwavering regarding your passion for toys, but regarding your interest in actually working with toys, there must have been some moment at which you thought to yourself, this is unrealistic. I might as well be hoping to be, a famous singer, because who gets to, do work with toys for a living?
Hmm. There have been times, yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, whenever you talk to your parents and you say, I want to make toys or I want to make art, the kinds of reactions they usually give you.
Hmm.
Um, Thankfully, my parents had both worked in the entertainment industry for a long time. So while they, try to, guide me on the path of something that's a little bit more realistic or a little bit more lucrative, they have also been supportive of creative things that I do. And that helped a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on something that Patriot Prime said in chat.
Mm.
He said, well, I hope he's okay with me saying this out loud. He posted it in a chat. He said, I hid my collection from my wife when we were dating.
Uh,
And I believe that I severely downplayed my interest in Transformers for a little while with Emily, my wife, when we started dating. And I feel that that must be a pretty common predicament. You have to wonder just exactly how often that happens and to what extreme it gets taken. Are
yeah.
people like, do you think maybe people like go so far as to get rid of their collections if they think, oh, this woman's not going to take me seriously if they don't?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got stories for you. Uh, my cousin, who's older than me, he had a whole collection of G1s and he sold all of them so that he could take this one girl out to prom. And
Wow.
when they got there, she ended up, ditching him and making out with another guy anyway. And that not only was he heartbroken, but he also lost all of his cool ass toys.
It goes to show that Transformers, if you're prioritizing your life properly, it's Transformers and then your love interest.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Of course, I would put my girlfriend over my toys now. We've been dating for 5 years, but there's a lovely story that I can tell you in regards to that. My best friend Cody didn't used to he didn't used to encourage me to let that side out when talking to girls. He
Mm.
said, Cam, listen, this is a dorky thing to do. Don't talk about that when, talking to chicks. Just be cool. And I was like, but this is me. This is really important. And he was like, stop. You're not gonna win anything by,
Mm.
being yourself. So I used to hide that away for a long time. And then I came across a book that was called A Geek's Guide to Dating. And it said, you know what? Nerds are really cool because they have something that most other people don't outwardly express, which is passion. And
Mm.
passion, in and of itself, is an incredibly attractive quality. So the moment that I stopped hiding that side of myself and being very open and outward with it, that's when I started meeting people who were really, like Mavanwi, my girlfriend, um, meeting people who really mattered. She and I, and I'm proud to say this, she and I met on Hot or Not. And on my Hot or Not profile, I said I'm absolutely 100% a a nerd and a collector of Transformers, and I'm happy and proud of it. And so she messaged me first, and she said, "Are you into Game of Thrones?" And I said, "I'm sorry, but I cosplay as the wrong Mr. Stark." And I sent her a picture of me in Tony Stark makeup.
Mm.
And I don't know how or why, but that, we're 5 years later, and that seemed to do it.
Well, Tony Stark is a very strategic cosplay of you. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
going to cosplay as any of the geeky personalities and you're picking one of the hot ones, there may be some underlying "I'm one of the hot geeks" reasoning there.
maybe.
Uh, but I think that I think it's really interesting. We keep coming back to this idea that Transformers is like it's a passion, and I don't think that it gets treated quite like that enough. I don't think there are. I feel that there is like it's almost shunned to take it too seriously. And what I find interesting is how I don't I don't think it was that way in the early days. And of course, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. I might be completely wrong about all of this, but my from what I've seen right now, there seems to, supposed to shut your phone off before one of these.
How unprofessional of you.
Very.
How dare
Our one viewer is going to be very upset. What was I just saying? Oh yeah,
yeah.
it seems that there's a lot of very very casual fans, and that's not a bad thing. You would expect there to be a lot of casual fans, but there seems to be this idea that you shouldn't take toys too seriously. You shouldn't read into the stories too much. You shouldn't really waste your time analyzing, any of the individual aspects. And I 100% want to push back on that. I'm much like you. I view Transformers as being a very serious, important part of my life, and it can be lighthearted, but it's like a lot of other things. I like to play guitar, for instance. I like to make music, and it's meant to be a lighthearted hobby of mine. That being said, it's something I take very seriously, and it's a very important part of my life. And I spend time studying it, and I spend time practicing, and I spend time writing songs, and it's the same thing with Transformers. I spend time reading. I spend time watching the shows, and it genuinely is a core component of my identity. Yeah. But I'm curious. Do you agree with me in the assessment that there seems to be an aversion to taking Transformers too seriously within the fandom?
Sometimes. I think that with Transformers, it's very easy to step into, and it's accessible for a lot of people, especially with how often it keeps on rebooting itself every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a fresh starting point, and I like that. It's not something that's intimidating. That's you know just so interwoven, and it's like you can't begin anywhere. Like sometimes I want to read Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is thousands of interconnected comics, and starting from the beginning is great, but that's also, so far back. And anyway, long story short, personally, I feel that while this is absolutely something that I prioritize and I value in my life, it is important to take it a little bit with a grain of salt. Sometimes I think that we can get a little caught up on how things are supposed to be, that there isn't a foot open to see what something can become. And that's when, exploration happens and you get really cool new ideas. Like, we all know who G1 Mindwipe is, but then, something like the Revenge of the Fallen toy completely turned that on its head and made him, a completely different vibe. And I love when stuff like that happens. because I respect creativity like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's for the progression of the fandom's best interest to take things so seriously and just to have fun. And remember, these are toys. They're meant to be played with, and it's meant to entertain you and put a smile on your face. And if it's not doing that, then perhaps you ought to reassess why you're in it, or you know uh, what you're getting out of it, how much you should put in versus how much you're receiving.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Maybe taking it seriously isn't the right way of phrasing it, but letting it be something that is important to you and passionate. Because I agree with you, people can be very, very close-minded about the way stories ought to be told in Transformers, the way characters ought to be. Um, and to that effect, I would say, yeah, I mean, you need to realize what this is. This is a franchise owned by Hasbro, and they're going to make whatever iteration they want, and they're going to mess up whatever characters you might hold dear to yourself. And some people are going to have totally different opinions than you. And so I would say, yeah, you have to stay open minded, and you have to try and remember that it has to be something that's fun. But nonetheless, I think that uh, you can be kind of serious about it, even though it's not quite the right word. One thing I wanted to ask you about was, do you find that, because I'm not as involved in the collector base or the fandom on Twitter.
Mhm.
Uh, in fact, to be honest, I look around oftentimes and I talk to certain people, but I'm not particularly involved in any one corner of the fandom. Uh, you're fairly involved in Twitter, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
Are you involved in other corners of the fandom?
sometimes. I used to also be very active on Facebook, but I think I transitioned to Twitter as an attempt to get away from just the platform of Facebook, and Twitter began to really appeal to me. But I like to place my ear to the ground in a lot of different areas, sometimes YouTube, to see what fans are trying to ask for, or things that they're saying in response to certain figures. Because not only does it help me with my job,
Hmm.
because I can see, okay, they want a little bit more of this color over here. Um, and I listen to the requests like that, but it also helps give me a larger view of where the trends are going.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of the stuff that we're getting these days is exactly what we were asking for 8-10 years ago.
Hmm.
And while this is, like, I would consider a golden age, I feel like sometimes the requests or expectations of the fandom have been a couple of steps ahead of how fast toy production can be.
Hmm.
So it's important to keep up with that forecasting, I think,
Yeah, for
especially since
sure.
our creative process is quicker than the year to 2 year or 3 year long process of designing a whole action figure.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find there's anything different about the Twitter Transformers fandom than there is about the other forums or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. I think that with Facebook, you have a lot of people who are, they're eager to show off their toys, and there's a lot of discussion around, like, what should have been done. Or, I mean, I'm not about to say that it's not positive, because it can be,
Hmm.
um, but Twitter has a completely different vibe, because it's, I find, a lot more positive and non-serious, and um, I love the vibe of being able to pick up a toy and being like, look at this chunky boy, or the relationship that you could have with your toys, and hey, I took this one to work with me today, or I'm holding this figure while I get my shots because I'm scared of needles, and I do some of that too.
Mhm.
So I really I gravitate towards positivity in action figure collecting because I think it's supposed to be fun and, you know, like I said, entertaining and, you know, a good presence in one's life. Sometimes when I'm scrolling through YouTube, because I watch a little bit every day, um, I see that there are a lot of videos or a lot of video reviews that can be purely negative. It's like top 10 worst of anything. And I tend to stay away from that perspective if I can.
It's funny because my one critique of the current YouTube review entire community would be that I would say there aren't enough negative critiques. So you and I have totally different viewpoints there. But the way that YouTube's algorithms work, you and I are probably seeing completely different videos. And
Sure.
there's obviously a lot of different collectors out there, or reviewers out there, rather.
Yeah.
Uh, one uh, one particular community that I've recently become aware of is the Transformers Discord community, and I knew that Discord was a well-used social media platform, but I thought that it was really more like Skype than anything else. That it was more about streaming videos. I didn't realize that there were groups and that can be likened to TFW or any of the other big forums.
Hmm.
And what seems to be the case is that it seems to be the youngest among us. And I'm talking potentially younger than me, which for me is totally alien because I grew up very involved in the community. And right from day one up until fairly recently, I I couldn't help but notice that I was the only person my age at any of the conventions. I was other than the few other kids that were brought by their parents. For the most part, it was just me, and then there was a one guy, my age who would show up to the TF cons every time. And so it really struck me as noteworthy that there is a thriving, I think they've got a couple thousand members, group on Discord. And they
Wow.
have different lingo. And it reminds me of Twitter, but it's like it's younger, Twitter's younger brother. And it's
Huh.
got a whole different set of people. I don't recognize any of the screen names. Uh, I don't. I'm not familiar with any of the lingo. It makes me feel very old, and I'm just 22, so I definitely shouldn't be feeling old yet. But just trying to decipher the way they talk, to me, it just goes right over my head,
Mhm.
and I feel like I'm 40 all of a sudden. But and it's so interesting to me, and I feel like TFW and Sabertron, they're that's where it seems the real veterans of the community. I don't. I think that that's where they tend to hang out, and I think
Mhm.
Twitter tends to be perhaps people your age, perhaps people my age, and there's some older folks in their 30s and 40s as well. But it seems to be that kind of middle ground, and now there's this up and coming community in Discord. And okay, well, so what was their G1? Did Was it Transformers Prime? It must have been, right? That
Yeah,
must be
maybe.
what got the majority of people in that age group involved. And so they're going to be coming into this with a totally different approach than we have. They're forming their own community, and it seems to be so secluded too. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this Discord community that seems to be full of young people.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, so that's interesting to me, anyways. And like you, I have to try and do some research. I have to try and stay up with the trends and try and get a good idea, if nothing else, of what people want for stickers. And then and this is why I'm doing this show, is that I'm just interested in the people and the fandom. Um, and so yeah, I'm excited to try and find some people from there. There's a reviewer that I recently have been talking to, Kit Catastrophe. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-mm.
He's up and coming. He's got 400 odd subscribers. but he's featured in the Discord group. And I'd love to talk to him a bit and get some kind of idea as to what's going on there. And, with this whole COVID thing, these are people that probably haven't even been to a convention. Most of them are young, so they probably have lots of, or most of them are probably still living with their parents and can't, necessarily just go off to a convention on their own. And it seems like, are we not as a community going to provide them any guidance? Are we not going to show them the ropes? Are we not going to, get them involved? So let's change subjects here.
If I may, before we do,
by all means,
I would love to get a look at that and see what those Discords are about. Personally, I've only ever used Discord for our work chats, but I think that it's cool to see. I mean, for what it seems, an entire microcosm of what that fandom might be like without the influence. Well, I mean, there would be some, of course, but without much influence from outside perspectives teaching one how they're expected to, treat certain things. Like when the first movie came out, the 2007, the first Bay film to come out. When that came out, I remember loving it top to bottom. I wanted to buy all the toys and animate frame for frame stop motion the entire thing. Now I realize that was entirely unrealistic, but the dream was there. And it wasn't for like maybe a year until I saw a magazine in a salon that had said that it was a critical review of Michael Bay's style, and it showed a couple of other fan interviews that were like, this is just absolutely pissing on my childhood. And from that moment on, I hated the movies because I thought this is the thing to do. This is what learned cultures do. They hate this thing. So then I morphed into that mold.
I like that you're picking up on this, by the way.
Yeah. So then I became part of that counterculture for a while, and then I don't know when, but at some point I went, no, you know what? I did love this, and that's okay. And I am fascinated by the idea of what that start looks like, because I think that sometimes we forget as Transformers fans that these toys are also for kids, because sometimes we get these expectations that we are the target audience, but they're also meant to be played with and dropped and pantomimed and had fun with. And I would love to experience a little bit of what that culture might be like. So that's something new I can look into.
Yeah, for sure. And we're still young enough that we can infiltrate the ranks and go unnoticed.
Sure. Yeah. Though I'm still stuck on what a based pogger is. I do not know what it means, and I'm desperate to find out.
I wasn't, in with the lingo as far as Transformers or anything else when I was in high school. And so the moment I left, I didn't know any of the popular songs anymore. I don't know how to chat online. And I tried a little bit getting involved in the Discord community, but here I was typing full sentences with punctuation, and that just jumped out at me as soon as I hit enter. I had posted a paragraph, and everybody else posts 4 words that I don't understand with a few emojis, and it's just beyond me. But you're totally right about the influence of the community at large on the individual. And I went through a similar cycle with the movies. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not per se a huge fan of them, but I have begun to appreciate the appeal. And for a very long time, I was very close-minded about it. And that was in large part because of the huge backlash within the fandom for the initial movie and the toys coming out of it and the designs and what have you at the time. And it came from a place that I understood, and so it was very easy for myself to align with that position, that it wasn't really Transformers, it was just commercial crap, and this wasn't anything like G1, and too much eye candy, yada yada yada. I totally get that. What really got me recently that kind of forced me to rethink my position was the Studio Series Constructicons,
Oh yeah.
which, yeah, and I'm not all the way there yet, but it's growing on me. And what's really funny is I considered those to be the epitome of crappy movie designs, and here they are now being the ones that are actually beginning to turn me over. And what I find appealing about it is the almost monstrous look to them. If I were into horror movies, if I were into that genre, then it would really speak to me. Then I would be I'd really be able to get behind the designs, and that leaves me almost wishing that's what they kind of leaned into in the movies. If Transformers had been a little bit more like Alien, then I might have really, appreciated it a bit more. And, I guess I'm still pretty critical of the movies. And I do think that for the most part, there's, it serves its purpose well. But so far as really embracing a creative approach, that's the kind of angle I wish that they took for it, to just lean into these are monsters. And they are they can be likened to piles of scrap metal, but in a crazy, horrific way. And yeah, you're right. They do all kind of look alike, but isn't that kind of scary? And if they had taken that approach, I would really get behind it. But the main problem with the Transformers movies is that it's such a big commercial thing that so far as being kind of creatively independent, that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard to not throw in the eye candy and the potty jokes and all of that,
Yeah. I mean, especially with Revenge of the Fallen, I think that was the epitome of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're used to it now as, Transformers has always been a commercial. And, we
For sure.
embrace G1 for being that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have loved about the Constructicons in particular from Revenge of the Fallen is that each one of them has a completely different silhouette and the way that they move. Like Rampage only has a pogo stick and 2 arms, and he moves like a snake. And Long Haul's the chunky one. And Overload with his 4 arms and the stinger on the back. Each one is so unique in their visual language. And then when they form that absolute monster of Devastator, that's like it's kind of what the idea of devastation is if it could walk.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first saw Revenge of the Fallen, I wasn't too sure how to feel about it. But then when it was all function before form, the entire idea of the vortex thing that sucks up all the sand and demolishes everything, and then makes that at the heart of a monster. I got it. And sometimes seeing how something moves or how something sounds is the thing that switches me over to getting it. And I'm so happy that now there's a combining set of them that does the robot modes and the vehicle modes, because that's something that we all wanted for like 10 years, and there it is.
Yeah, for sure. So we're talking very specifically about Devastator right now and about the appearance of the Constructicons. And when I talk about G1, I tend to really focus in on certain things. And there's a lot of things I like to focus in on, but admittedly, I'm not always super honest about the full picture. I tend to overlook the animation errors and the fact that it was a commercial and a lot of a lot of the faults. And I just focus in on these little details. And so I have the same question for G1 that I do for the movies. How much of the genius behind the things that we like do you think is accidental? Because there's pockets of it, but then there's also lots of little faults too. And
Sure.
I wonder how much of it is, okay, maybe there was one person on per team that was really into it, and everybody else was just kind of there doing their job, pressing the buttons, running things by the numbers. Do you think there were? Do you think that with and I'm terrible with my knowledge on the movie verse. It was Revenge of the Fallen that Devastator premiered in, right? That's what you had said.
Yeah.
Do you think that Michael Bay at the top had this vision, this creative idea behind the movie, or do you think there was more, just little pockets of genius?
I think that where his credit is due is knowing how to make a movie that'll sell. I think that I wouldn't go so far as to say that he was the defining choice of the visual language, because there are so many artists that have joined the team over the years that have been able to, make these really cool designs. And I think that he is the umbrella that is, okay, this is the vibe I'm going for. And then he, separates that into little different pockets. Okay, you guys take on designs. You guys maybe, you have some kind of other idea that we can go for with the story. And sometimes all of those things meet into one concentrated nugget of really cool design, or maybe even a touching piece of story. I wouldn't give him too much credit, but I wouldn't say that he, is absolutely separated from what makes the movies so cool either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the G1 team, that's where my question really has gnawed at me for years. Like how much did they know what they were doing? How much of the good stuff that came out was just kind of an accidental byproduct of a bunch of people coming in and half-assing their jobs, and it just happened to work out because enough money was thrown at it. I believe, and I don't want to misquote him, but I remember hearing Flint Dille at a convention talking about being the creative. I'm forgetting the term, but essentially the top of the food chain when it came to the writing process, and making sure that that all of the continuity worked out, and that that all the stories, he was essentially the editor, and he talked about working on one of the seasons in that capacity. And then I heard him talk about the movie. And say whatever you want about the movies, some people don't like it, some people do, and there was a big difference as far as the depth behind it. And what he was saying was that for the movie, he felt that this was the best script that he had ever written. He was really passionate about it. And for whichever season he was talking about, he said he was a little bit more detached at the time. And so I feel like there's a real direct correlation in between how good a particular episode is, season is, movie is, with how much the person at the top really is passionate about it. And this comes back to what we were talking about.
Sure.
It's important to be passionate about this stuff, because then it can be an art form, and which is what I think it can boil down to. It doesn't matter what art form you're into. If you're into, I mentioned I play guitar earlier. If you're into playing guitar, you can just learn how to play guitar and you'll play very, very well. But you might not write a whole lot of good songs. If you're passionate about it, you can be a terrible guitarist. But every now and then, you're going to come up with something that really, really interests people because you care about it.
Yeah,
And I find that to be fascinating.
of course. I used to play piano myself, and I remembered that one of the things that I was taught, and I don't remember who it came from, but they said it doesn't matter if you nail or land all the notes exactly right, but don't you dare play that song without feeling it, because
Mm,
then that will do a greater disservice to the song than missing a note ever did.
yeah. No, that's very well said. And I think that the same is true of Transformer collectors. Um,
Absolutely.
I think that there are a number of Transformer collectors that are not, and I say a number because it's very vague and I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think that there are a number of Transformer collectors that are not very passionate about it
Hmm.
and that are maybe a little bit more showy about it. That it's all about having something to show the other Transformer collector that you know to impress them. I
Sure.
don't think that there's a majority of people like that for sure, but I think that there are people like that, and it's kind of sad to see.
Mhm.
But I'm happy that they're out there because I get to see that and I get to go. I don't ever want to become one of those people. I
Hmm.
don't ever want to not care about what I'm doing because otherwise, it's just going to be depressing.
Sure. I
Yeah,
think it's a habit that we all get into a little bit at some point. I think it's part of the collector journey, and what kind of self-awareness that you have can help direct, that train of whether you are spending your money and, buying things that you think are like cool because they're popular, or cool because, this is the thing that everyone's buying right now,
hmm,
or cool because you personally find it fulfilling. Um, Personally, I end up liking a lot of really unpopular toys. And I don't know why, but sometimes if something is um, unsightly, or if it's, you know, I'm thinking about G1 Quick Switch.
hmm,
I don't have one, but I kind of wish I did. There's something charming about it, and
yeah,
it's definitely not one that many would think is um, a necessary G1 purchase. Like, uh, God, I've heard sentiments over the years that if you don't own a G1 Devastator, you're not really a true Transformers fan, and that's some bullshit. I
yeah,
mean, whatever you like, that is enough to qualify you as a fan, and
for
I'm
sure.
all for constantly pushing that understanding for, everything is completely fine and okay, and when it comes to, collecting and liking what you like, and for everything to coexist peacefully together.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like we're going over a lot of similar themes
Yeah,
throughout this podcast, but that's I think good. I guess if there were like a whole message to all of this, it'd be that you should be passionate about it and you should be open-minded about it and not be snobby about it either. Uh,
sure.
the and not be disinterested in it because it's so easy to just have it be something that, yeah, I've got a transformer room, I've got toys in there, I've had them for a long time, hmm and they're they're this expensive, so
Mm,
that's how you know it's serious. I think that I'm willing to bet that there was a lot of shame in the collector uh, uh, base in the early days, probably around the time alternators came out. I'm just speculating right now, but it
mhm.
says something to me that the line at the time of alternators, they were the best at the time. That was
They
like
were.
a precursor to Masterpiece,
Mm,
but they also all transformed into basically model cars. that you could get away with displaying on a shelf without having to admit that they were Transformers.
Yeah.
Which I think says something about that. And I think that now that generation has had kids that have grown up collecting Transformers, and they have friends that have grown up collecting Transformers, it's probably changed everything about what it's like to grow up being a Transformer collector.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're getting close to the end here. I guess I should probably ask you about some of the sticker sets that you've designed.
Yeah, sure. I've got
Yeah.
a little collection of things I've designed over in that cabinet over there.
Cool. What was your favorite so far?
I'm particularly fond of the Pyro conversion set that we made for Power of the Prime's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
That I love that one because we changed so much of it up, and he's got a giant, obliterator bazooka over his shoulder, and we repurposed that whole ladder. I am also fond of who else? Power of the Prime's Jazz. I've always been happy about that one. That was like 2017 that we made that. Yeah. It was. I think I remember designing that Black Friday, and check it out. Wide.
Yeah, I'm trying to share the screen here so that I can show the pyro set.
Oh, I can go get it actually.
I want to do your set justice, Cameron. I don't know how good your webcam is.
There we go. I guess we'll both find out, huh?
Okay, I'll blow you up first, and then I apologize to our two viewers. I have no idea
how. Now.
Yeah, actually, we had 3 briefly, so
wow,
it hasn't been nobody. And I told you I'd be surprised if we got a few, and 3 qualifies as a few. 2 is a couple.
Yeah, 3 is a crowd.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'll let you show it in hand, and then I'll show the pictures afterwards.
Well, this is Pyro. I feel like I'm doing a little show and tell. God, it's been years. And I love the way that we did these stripes, the caution stripes, and everything that we did to try and recolor the back of the vehicle mode there.
Yeah, for sure. This has always been one of my favorite sets of yours, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and we put a lot of effort into the pictures on our end because we liked it so much. And the cannon that you have there, the alternate transformation that you came up with, is absolutely genius. And that's potentially one of my favorite parts about sticker sets is when you can reconfigure the toy and then make it work with the stickers. That's just the coolest.
I love doing that, especially lately. I feel like that's one of the things that I contribute so prominently to our team. I love to do fan modes and then take that the step further by designing what stickers should go where to help complete the look. Like what fan modes have we done recently? I'm drawing a blank.
Sorry, what Thanos?
What fan modes?
Fan modes. Sorry, I was thinking
we've done that have had fan modes that have we've repurposed.
I'm always thinking more about what's coming than what's happened. Once we did a sticker set, it is ancient history for me.
Gone.
And so those who dare to listen to this, I can tell you that Airwave is going to be turned into a Sky Spy, which is going to be really interesting.
Yep.
It's really easy when all of the pieces are flat and they're modular to just reconfigure them into some other flat thing. But yeah, fan modes, we just had one recently. Why isn't it coming to me? Oh no, this is going to drive me nuts.
I do remember that I made a fan mode for Siege Soundwave to turn him into not the traditional rectangular boombox, but more of like an alien interpretation precursor to the boombox. We did thankfully get pictures of that in uh, in our photo maps on the website. So
Hmm.
super happy and proud about that. We also have a fan mode for Devastator that is a little bit different from the standing up configuration. He's more on all fours, and the labels are also going to help emphasize that. Um, I took Studio Series Crankcase. Was it? Yeah, and we made kind of a sticker set for him, and I managed to find a way to make it a quadrupedal approximation of Hatchet. It's ugly, but it's fun. It's fun.
The best fan mode that you have done was the Galactic Man uh,
Oh yeah,
Long Arm
that.
Prime.
Oh my
Yeah,
god. I don't know why I didn't think about that one.
yeah. So I'm gonna pull that up now. I've got the photo map right here, and I know what I'm doing, so I can share the screen. So so we did a set recently, and this was all Cameron's genius behind this one. Uh, he, uh, of course, did the regular labels that you would expect for Galactic Man, the gray shockwave, in case anybody doesn't know. But he had also done a conversion set to turn it into Long Arm Prime from the animated series, which included an alternate robot mode and a brand new face for it. And I'll let you take it from here because I don't know as much about
Sure.
Long Arm Prime, so I want you to do it justice.
Yeah. It started from I was looking up, you know, reference photos for Galactic Man Shockwave, and I managed to come across that, and I don't know why it never clicked, but the animated long arm design was patterned largely off of the Galactic Man color scheme, and I didn't put two and two together that that was supposed to be the reference. So um, then I loved that a lot, and I started to remember Vangelis's review of Long Arm Prime and how he made the whole thing, like a political campaign commercial for Long Arm Prime for office. And the way that he does that review, if you haven't seen it, it's it's hilarious. He's like, Long Arm Prime saved my child from a burning building. Um, so I wanted to make this crane mode look like, hey, you don't see an evil Decepticon jet. This is completely a different shape. Look, it's got a massive claw on top for helping you lift things and being there for you when you need him most. And he's not threatening. Look, he tiptoes ever so gently on these little walking things. And oh, but that's not fast enough for you to rush to an emergency. Well, don't worry, you can tuck those things up. And he has a hover mode, and it was so fun. And the process took me like 7 months to get the art just right and the modes, from start to finish. But this is absolutely, I think, the set that I am proudest of.
That's awesome, and you have good reason to be. Uh,
Thank you.
so Patriot Prime, our most loyal viewer to date, has mentioned something that I mentioned to him. I don't remember if it was off stream or on stream, but uh, the the upcoming sticker set for Fast Track. What I managed to come up with for it is a spaceship mode. I think I showed you pictures for it. I
Yeah,
don't have any here. I don't have the toy around me, but we did just finish up all the cut lines, so we're good to proceed to the next step.
great.
But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the spear mode. I didn't really think it worked out too well.
Hmm.
And so I was playing around with it, probably just out of spite and contempt for it. I think I was just making fun of it to whoever was, unfortunate enough to be there for my ranting about it. And I realized if you just flip it over it's already pretty close to looking like a ship. And then I just, reconfigured the limbs, and then I was able to get a good tail fin out of the waist section, and it's very compelling. So that'll be cool. And then staying on the subject of fan modes, potentially my favorite ones is when we can do it to a city bot, which we've been successful way too many times in a row. Like, it doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
Scorponok had it, Omega Supreme had it, and Fortress Maximus had it. And we can give it some extra playability, which to me is the most important thing about a toy.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny that you bring up Fast Track, because I was messing around with that, and I managed to find a mosquito alt mode out of it. And I recorded a quick little video and I put it up on Twitter. But the tip of the spear with the little dagger at the front ends up being the head, and the legs end up becoming the mosquito wings, and the wheels are kind of like hover jets or whatever. And I kind of wanted to see that converted into Beast Wars Transketo. I remember reading on Twitter that like somebody was like, "Hey, out of Kingdom, when are we going to get a Transketo?" And
Wow.
I used to have one of those toys when I was collecting Beast Wars, and his whole vibe was wild. I mean, and his proportions, the legs, the thick boots, so cool. And I thought that between the orange and the gray, our little boy Fast Track over there might actually be most of the way to such an idea. So I don't know. It's something fun to play with and see if might make it happen.
I'm gonna have to check out your video that you posted on Twitter, because I see. Sorry, this is my first introduction to Transketo.
Yeah.
Interesting. They really leaned into the naming convention of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see how that's going to work. And if it does work, for sure, that's an interesting project to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've gone over an hour.
Yeah.
And it's been lots of fun.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, if this manages to take off even a little bit, this can be something that we do again at some point. And is there anything you'd like to let people know about? Do you want them to follow you on Twitter? Do you want them to?
Yeah. Absolutely. My handle everywhere is Camzilla51, and on Twitter, my longer name title, I don't know, it's Cam, your local Toyhax man. So yeah, come and check it out or see what I'm talking about. I like to talk about stickers. I like to talk about other toys and other really cool bits of design that I really like. And I'm always there. So that's always fun. And of course, check out our stickers and what we're always coming out with. We're just having a bucket of fun, at least.
Yeah, for sure. For the most part, I'm going to try and keep this a detached thing from Toyhax. But of course, when I have somebody else from Toyhax here, let's plug Toyhax. Toyhax.com. Buy all of your Transformer stickers. Upgrade your toys. There's backdrops. There's a new gun section. It's going to have all kinds of size options and post position options and different colors available. So be sure to check all that out. And thank you to everybody who's watched this. This is our first episode, or my first episode, unless Cameron wants to be a regular. Cool. So we're just, I'm just getting started, just learning how all of this works. And so thanks again. And talk to you guys later.